Nibby, guess what I forgot for you? You hear me?
We'll get started here in just a minute. We've still got some people trying to come in and find a seat. Looks like we got a full house tonight. Before we get started, let me make a couple of announcements just right off the top of the head. I'm sure a lot of y'all are here for citizens' comment section. That will come up here in just a little bit. 3 minutes. You'll come to the podium, state your name and address. And Jim, did you put there's a sheet on the podium for you to please sign in on. And Mr. Trippett will be keeping a timer, and he will let you know when your time is up. So all please be courteous of each other and keep noise comments to a minimum, please, so everybody has a chance to speak. Other than that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. August 6, 2018, Mayor and City Council meeting. If you'll please stand, I will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing, an invocation, Mr. Jim Trippett.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We thank you, Father, for each and all of our blessings that you've given us and bestowed upon us. Father, we thank you for our city, for our town, our community that you've blessed us to live in and be a part of. Father, we thank you for our mayor and city council, Lord, that give their time to conduct the business of the city. And Father, we ask you to grant them wisdom and discernment as they conduct the business and matters of the city. Father, we pray that everything is said tonight and every action done would be acceptable to you and pleasing in your sight. And Father, we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to be first. If you're standing, that'd be fine.
Probably the oldest one in here. Hi. Good evening.
You would just sign that.
I will in a minute. Don't let me forget. I wanted to speak to y'all tonight.
Excuse me, ma'am.
L Holland. You made me buzz, Walt. Don't do that.
I'm sorry, but state your name and address, please.
I'm L Holland. I live on Main Street in Whitesburg. I know I'm not one of your constituents, but we all care about our beautiful city of Carrollton. And I'm here tonight to speak to you because we do have a problem that doesn't just affect Carrollton City. It affects all of us. And I'll be honest with you. The reason I'm here to speak, I'll let you know in just a minute. And I know I only have 3 minutes. So I'll have to hurry. But I have a daughter that teaches here at Carrollton Elementary, and she's going through ovarian cancer. It's her 4th cancer. And she has a live video on Facebook that she's been doing, and it's called Cancer Could Care Less. So she's been speaking daily to her friends, and she was supposed to have her 4th chemo today and couldn't. So please, all of you are praying people, be praying for her. But yesterday she did her video, and she started out by saying, I want to speak to y'all about something that's touching me, and it's heavy on my heart, and I decided that if I didn't speak out about it, who would? She spoke about racism, and I know that's an ugly word to so many people, but it's something that we all need to talk about. We need to sit down at our dinner tables, we need to sit down at our schools, and we need to address this. Shannon talked yesterday about how much she loved her students, how good her school system was to her, how much she cared about people. And then she also went on and described some racist things that had happened to her because she has a husband that's not as white as we are. And I can vouch for the fact that when she student taught, she got married soon afterwards, and she couldn't even get an interview in a school system that I happened to work for because of her situation. We raised our 6 children to not see color, to judge all people on who they are and what they do. and how they treat other people. I'm here tonight because I just want to tell y'all that I love Gerald Byrd. I've known the Byrd family, his extended family, his aunts, his uncles, his mom, his dad, his cousins. Part of his family calls me Mom sometimes because they were always with us in our car coming back and forth to Carrollton when Perry and I did the summer track program for the recreation department. Back in the 80s, after Lakeshore Pool was built, our kids that were running track, and y'all all know what track kids mainly look like. We had Craig Musselwhite, Patrick Moore, my kids, a few white kids that ran, but for the most part, they were Gerald's brother, Lamont, Corey Crowder, just different kids from around here that are outstanding human beings and give to their community and work so hard to be of service to others. My heart breaks that I know most all of y'all, and I know when there was an incident. Okay, anyway, just please think about what I've said, and let's all come together and support one another and be by each other's side as we all face this cruel world today. Sorry.
My name is Bobby Freeman. I live at 918 Alabama Street. Wasn't going to get to say anything, but since Miss Lucia came up and spoke about this, it's important that I say something about it concerning racism. Now, if we, number one, don't address it, then we got a problem with it. Okay? Now, if I say to you, are you prejudiced? And you say no, I don't believe you. That's been a white man. So if you must agree that you are, then and only then can we address the problem. Now, if you're going to be in denial about being racism, then we're not going to ever solve the problem because it's a smoke screen, but it's clear. It can be seen. And I urge you all, and I highly respect Gerald because he said things that's important to the community. It may not be politically correct, but it's right, it's true. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
My name is Annette Boykin. I stay at 503 Elder Circle, Carrollton, Georgia. On August the 6th, 2018, I was born in 1961. It hurts my heart to know that I love a song that look how far we have came, but where are we today? I'm not here to throw stones, but are we going backwards? Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but to hold something against somebody from their opinion, what is our city councilman been doing all this time? If this little Bob is causing all this, what about the little bitty kids that can't come up here? How are we going to explain what's going on today? I'll be 57 and I don't know what racism is because I was brought up, didn't even know I was poor until the system told me I was poor. Because I look around and see black friends, white friends, you all just a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And I want us to know that before the world can be a beautiful place for everybody, we need Carrollton, Georgia to come to be a beautiful place, not just for us, for our children. You pay your own cell phone bill. You can do and say what you want to on it. I do on mine. And I know a lot of times I might say something to somebody on Facebook. I don't mean no harm because I don't always dot my I's and cross my T's. But I love you, Mr. Byrd. I love you, and I love you. We need to squash this. We don't came too far for the little bitty children for us to explain to them what's going on right now. I don't even understand it.
Libby, could we put that address book out there just for time's sake, if you don't mind? Thank you. I'm so sorry. I think that will make more sense. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry Buffington. I live at 440 Henson Circle in Carrollton. And I am here in support of Gerald, who I think is a very respectable, good person. I don't know the person that said Gerald was a racist. I even spoke the word racism. But we need to know that that word comes with a definition. And Gerald is certainly not a racist. Gerald, nor any of these black people in this room, think they have authority over any race of people, any group of people. That's part of the definition of racism. So for people to get up and call somebody a racist, get Webster out and look up the word. I mean, come on now. Gerald has this art studio up in here in town, and I know for a fact there are more white kids up there than there are black kids, and he do not hate white kids. So the man, whoever he is, check yourself.
Amen.
My name is Nipitiri Boykin. I live at 142 Nazir Lane in Carrollton, Georgia. I just stand here as, I guess, a part of the younger generation. I don't know how many people have had the chance to see Gerald Byrd outside of the city council or his art studio. Have you ever been in the hall and the kids run up to him? I don't care what color they are. Mr. Byrd, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Byrd. That's all they know. But we as an adult, we can't even say, I forgive you and go on. We all human. We all make mistakes. Not saying that, you know, because what you say in the privacy of your home or what you post on Facebook, that's your Facebook. You're supposed to be able to voice your opinion however you want to. I respect Mr. Byrd. It's never been a time that I have needed something and he has not been there, and I know he has done that for plenty of people. Amen. And I stand here tonight in support of Mr. Byrd.
My name is Felix Martin. I live in Villa Rica, 124 Brookside Way. I'm not a citizen of the city of Carrollton, but I was born and raised here, and I pastor a number of people that live in this city. And I would just like to say, I think the larger issue here is that we don't miss the opportunity to begin the dialogue and just to extend it, because I think this one statement is an isolated statement, but I don't think it speaks of racism. I hear frustration, and I hear fatigue, and I hear somebody who continues to try and push the envelope and continues to try and help a group of people. And I feel some of the same frustration as a pastor, because I pastor Hispanic families, white families, and then you have families that are mixed. And those children, when they sit in your office and they weep because they don't know where they fit in the midst of this culture, it's just quite difficult to try to help them when you see so much against them. And so I just want to say, I hope that we will take this as a teachable moment and just continue to extend the dialogue. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Molly Miller. I live at 214 Tuggle Street, right here in the city of Carrollton. I have been a resident here since 2005 when I moved here to college. I love this town. I haven't moved away. I met my husband here. I have my family here. I have 4 small children. Mr. Byrd, you probably don't remember me, but my children used to go to Carrollton Elementary School. And when my son was in pre-K, he saw you one day and he ran up to you, and I was right behind him. And he just started talking to you and talking to you. He's very verbose. We now know it's because he has high-functioning autism with a very high IQ. But my child is white, and that didn't matter to you. You continued to talk to him like he was a real person because he is a real person. But then also at Carrollton City, my daughter, who is now going into 2nd grade, had a little girl who was black in her kindergarten class that was her best friend. She played with her. But then 6 weeks later, this is at Carrollton City Elementary School, she had 2 white girls say to her, "You can't be my friend anymore because you played with a black girl." We obviously have a racism problem. And we can't do anything about it unless we talk about it. Why at 5 years old was my daughter taught what race is? We hadn't talked about the difference between white kids and black kids, or Mexican kids or Hispanic kids, because we all know at Carrollton City Schools we have a large Hispanic population too. And my daughter was friends with everybody. So I appreciate you, Mr. Byrd. I know you probably don't remember me, but I love you and I care about you, and we need you in our community. Thank you.
Miss Miller, would you please come back and sign? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, just for the minutes and everything.
Good afternoon. My name is Gladys North. I live at 130 North Gary Street. I was not going to say anything. I was just going to sit back and listen. But I'm a descendant of the 6 generations of Amanda Brown that Gerald knew as a child. During my travels, I come home, and Gerald always had something going on in the housing project behind my grandmother. He put on plays, and I know most people know that. He did things that would try to keep the neighborhood intact and for kids to be happy. The reason why I'm really up is because my grandson came in dragging his children. And for him to do that, he'll stay at home dad. He doesn't work, he keeps his children. He teaches children to love and to get along with people. So for me to not speak up for my friend tonight, because for him to put them in the car and come out and his wife is working tonight, I know that he's concerned about what's going on. I have no problem, just about everybody should know me here. I love Jerry, I love his family, I love Carrollton, people, anybody, not only the whites, the blacks, but the whites as well, and thank you for this.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Benson, 205 Bethlehem Church Road of Carrollton, Georgia. The title is Racism, but the subject is the movement. Mr. Gerald Byrd, for a whole lot of us, is the voice. He has wakened the village. I myself, as a people of color, not black by no means, as a person of color, we've been struggling with this word racism. We're tired of being considered animals, no good, less than, lower than. I read the statement. The statement is waking us up so we can continue our fight and our movement to fit in this society where we belong as anybody else in this room. It's the movement. Thank you, Mr. Gerald Byrd.
Good evening. My name is Edward J. Landrum. I live at 1112 Clem Laurel Road, Carrollton. I pastor Moore's Chapel United Methodist Church, 120 North Park Street. I just want to say today that I'm a firm believer that many things happen for a reason. And we can either let this incident draw us together or tear us apart. There's no reason for anyone to come in here with animosity in their hearts, but rather to try to heal wounds that we know exist. Words can be hurtful sometimes. And even my grandmother had said some hurtful words to me. But when I looked at her character and I knew how much she loved me, I looked at what she had done down through the years. And I have only been in the Carrollton community for only 2 years. But one of the very first people that extended a hand of love to me was Mr. Gerald Byrd. I visited his studio and I saw the love that he showed to everyone there. And as most of you know, most of the students there, as has already been said, were predominantly white. And they showed just much love to him as he showed to them. And I just want you to let this be a reckoning moment, not a moment that separates us, people, but a moment that draws us together. That's all I have to say.
My name is Shakira Leanne Thomas, and I live at 499 Craven Road, Roofville, Georgia. I've been a certified educator since I was 29 years old. And I had on my wall something that I don't think some of us adults grasp. It says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your life. Now, why am I crying? Because I see habitually this thing of racism. I remember I put up in my classroom my second year a poster that said, racism with eraser, and it was erasing the word racism because I wanted all children to know that they're cared and loved for. It wasn't just about having an educational foundation. It was about having a life foundation. This man cares about all people having a life foundation. He drove to my classroom in Douglasville, Georgia, that was on the hinge of Paulding County, to come to a class that had only 2 students who had special needs. He didn't know at the time, but one of them cared nothing about my English class. Didn't care about writing, didn't care about life. And from the time Gerald came to my class, all he could say was, I want to be like that. I want to care about people. I want to write. If that's how I'm going to reach people, I want to write, Miss Thomason. I don't want us to go in reverse. My family has lived here for over 150 years. My great-great-grandfather, Abraham Bonner, was a slave on the University of West Georgia when it was Smith Foundation, when it was Smith Plantation. There is a picture of my great-grandfather that hangs in the backdrop of the Bonner House because he was the foundations of that campus. We love everybody. If you drove to 499, you'd be just like Gerald. If you wanted the apple, if you wanted a meal, if you wanted a hug, if you wanted somebody to tend to your ear. Tend to your ear means just listen. Some of us don't know how to listen, and I think the thing is to get your intellect out of the way, all of us, and just listen. Thank you.
You got me a little choked up.
Me too.
I'm James Davis, 553 Clem Lowell Road, and grew up at 315 Cedar Street. And majority of my life I've known this man. And I've had the pleasure to be the tech director for when he did his production of Raisin in the Sun. And we were college classmates. Growing up in this town, and just being a kid, you kind of go through love and hate with your hometown. And I've fallen firmly on the side of loving this town. And there's nobody that I am more proud to know than Gerald here. 3 minutes isn't going to be enough time for me to say all that I could say about what he means to me, what he means to this community, what he means to the children, to the parents of this community. And I think that he has inspired so many, including myself, and that it is further an inspiration that he has the guts and is as bold enough to express his views and opinions, and that he should not be condemned for speaking truths, no matter how uncomfortable it makes anybody. Gerald, I love you.
I love you too.
Appreciate you. And this community appreciates you and needs you. Nobody eats, sleeps, drinks this community like you do.
Good evening. I'm Ida Byrd, 116 Glenway. Gerald, I knew him before he was born. So if I get a little prejudice, it's because I love him. I have a son the same age he is. Like I say, I've been knowing Gerald when he was in his mother's womb, so I love this guy. I love him, and I see the love that other people is sharing. He just loved people. I remember when they lived in Thomas' home. He was always a strange kid, always, in a good way. You know, he'd get all the little kids in the community, and he'd do arts with them, and Lozelle, his mama, tried to protect him, you know, because that's her baby. And excuse me, and I understand that she didn't want any harm to come to him, and I'm sure she feels the same way now. But all the years I've been knowing Gerald is 46 years old, right?
Something like that.
And out of all those years, I never seen prejudice. I worked with him in the school system. He was in the school system. I was there. I saw kids, all color, all races, everybody running up to him, coming down the hall hollering, Mr. Byrd, hugging him, he hugging them back. You know, it didn't matter because he loved kids, he loved people. And I love him, and I just want him to know that I'm here to support you. I love you. We family. I'm proud to be your family. We love each other, and I'm here to support you. And but I just know there is no prejudice in your heart. I've seen you from day one. I've seen you all these years, and that is one thing I never seen is you being racism. And if anybody saw that in you, they better take another look and ask God to show them what I see in you. Because I see what's in you. And I love you, baby.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa Duffy. I live on Howell Road in Carrollton. I am happy to send my kids to Mr. Byrd, and they love going there. I think I'm a therapist, so I believe in healing. I believe in wholeness. I believe that this discussion needs to happen, and sometimes the most difficult discussions are the ones that have to happen before healing can occur. And there's a lot of talk about racism, and I don't know if we can fully be honest with ourselves about racism unless the white people in this room can acknowledge how much easier our lives are just from the color of our skin. And so we also have to be the ones to stand up. And so I'm in full support of you, Mr. Byrd, and I thank you for everything that you give the community and my children.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia McClure. I'm at 95 Henson Circle, Carrollton, Georgia. And for my 3 minutes, I want to just take a moment of silence. You might ask, why would I give my 3 minutes of silence? Because that's been our voice. We have not been heard. We have not had the platform. People say it's racism. I say it's the platform. If it had been where I'm standing and said that, wouldn't have been anything said. We say it all the time. We call each other names, derogatory names. We do this back and forth. But I think it's the platform. If Mr. Byrd had been standing right here and said those statements, nothing would have been said. But because he is a council member and he has a platform, it's a big deal. He's made all these changes in Carrollton. He's cleaned up the west side. He's made us look better over there. He never got acknowledged for that on Channel 5 News. He made those statements, and he made national news. Our voices, we want to be heard. We care. We feel, we love, we hurt, just like anybody else. We bleed like you. All we want to do is just be heard. Do you have to do anything about it? If you can, yes. If you can't, no problem. Just let us say what we got to say. It is a form of frustration. It's a form of not being heard. We're tired. We just want our voices to be heard. And if a person like Gerald Bird's got the platform, we applaud you. Thank you for saying what we couldn't say and make a difference. Because if we'd have said it, it wouldn't have meant a thing. But because you said it, it made national news. We're proud. I signed the paper earlier. Do I still have to sign this?
You've already signed it?
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Linda Houston, resident of Villa Rica, Georgia. I would just like to say, I heard that Gerald is 46 years old. I've known him for 43 years. And he's a person with a voice. And since I helped him to get his start, I was his Head Start teacher. So I know why you can speak, Gerald Byrd. I've done the same thing. I represented the Carroll County Board of Commissioners on the Head Start program for about 10 years or so. I spoke for Carrollton, Carroll County. I worked my tail off. I understand that's what Gerald Byrd is doing now. We need people like Gerald Byrd to continue the work that he's been doing. And I just hope each and every one of you will find it in your heart to know and allow this young man to continue to work, because one day, all of us gonna pass on. We need Gerald Byrd and some more Gerald Byrds to come along to carry the torch, because we will no longer be making decisions. So Gerald, keep doing what you're doing. Voice your opinion, young man. I don't care what. Go ahead and say what you have to say. I train you to do that. And I just want to thank you, and I love you, Gerald.
Thank you. Love you too.
My name is Juan Forero, live in 206 Wooded Glen Lane. And I'm just going to piggyback on what everybody has said. We love Gerald Byrd. Moved here 7 years ago, and I think that it was about the time that he was building the Institute of the Imagination. And my kids and my family have been growing together with the Institute and have seen what Gerald Byrd has done for the vision of this town. It's not the vision of one word, it's the vision of this town. Is growing with the city's growth, in our kids, in the community that he serves in Ward number 1. And what I want to do is I want to ask everybody in the city council, I want to ask people in the authorities, the school board, to share Gerald Byrd's vision of the city, to support him in the ideas that he has. I have seen the progress of Ward 1. That is because budget has been allocated to that ward, as it is allocated through all the city. But please, as everybody has said, he has the voice of a lot of the people living in this town that sometimes, or for many years, or for sometimes, have not had a voice. So I want to invite you all to please support those ideas. That is the best way to hear what all the people here in this meeting is saying. And also, I think that you have a lot of constituents that are Hispanics, and they are not to be seen. And they are, I understand, 33% of the population of Carrollton. So please, I want to make a little bit of a point at this point. Please hear that population as well. They might not be voting because of many reasons. They might not have votes, but please hear them as well. I know that Gerald is also including a lot of them because they are constituents and people who live in Ward 1. So Gerald, again, thank you very much for everything you do. please, I ask everybody to share the vision. That's the way to act in this situation and to lower all those feelings of racism and other things that shouldn't be here in Carrollton for Carrollton to grow. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Takara Simpson. I live at 111 Southside Avenue A. I am from Carrollton, born in Carrollton, raised in Carrollton, and you know I've been writing a couple of things down just so I could remember all the cool things and amazing things that Mr. Byrd done. So I'm not politically correct, but I do want y'all to listen and pay attention to me, please, including the people that sit like this most of the time. Thank you. So I do have a little bit of an attitude problem, but I came up here to talk about the fact that I'm only 20 years old, and I remember back in elementary school when Mr. Byrd came by and he said, okay, I'm changing West Side to West Carrollton. Now that don't seem like that big of a deal, but we, like a man said a minute ago, we have to change the dialogue. When you call it West Side, what are y'all thinking? Y'all thinking of the slums. He changed it to West Carrollton back when I was in elementary school now. Now, why do I still remember this? I'm not from West Side. I'm from East Side, actually, but the fact that I remember this, y'all should probably pay attention to some stuff that he'd already done changed. He done made such a big impact on Carrollton alone. And from the looks of it, he the only one that's been trying to help out West Side. Now, and for people to try to say, there's a lot of people that are trying to say that racism is not, it doesn't exist. I'm biracial. I was raised in Carrollton. If you tell me that racism doesn't exist, I'll tell you a bold-faced lie. You want to know why? Because I was raised in Carrollton Elementary School, the same school that he came and spoke at, and a teacher gave black pens to the bad kids and white pens to the good kids. Yep, y'all guessed it. All the black kids got the black pens, right? So all I'm asking y'all to do is pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in Carrollton. You know, the only great change that I've seen since Mr. Byrd done changed West Side to West Carrollton and done all this great stuff since I've grown up is the Greenbelt. I'm not here to jump down anybody's throat. I'm just a little intense. I apologize for that. But at the end of the day, we are here to make Carrollton a better place. Not just one part of Carrollton. We're here to make all of Carrollton a better place. Thank you.
My name is Travis Patterson, and I reside at 114 Sim Street, right off the square. I'm new to Carrollton. My sister is Linda Robles. She's highly involved in the community. Not to change the gear, I'm not here to speak about what everyone else is speaking about, but I'm here to speak about solar energy. So I'm from North Carolina, and solar energy has played a huge role in Eastern North Carolina. And so far, I see that there's been a lot of progress in Carrollton when it comes to becoming more innovative and recognizing the millennial generation. My comment and statement is that I would like to see more alternative energy solutions and job opportunities created by this alternative energy for those that may not come out of school with a degree or have a large amount of skill sets that they can offer to what's currently here, but have something that's teachable within that industry so it can be used to be shared in different fields. So that's my little thing. And thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Ellis. I live at Hunter's Way, Carrollton, and I'm here to support Mr. Byrd. My family moved here in 2000 from Miami, South Florida. I have 2 African-American nieces, a Puerto Rican daughter, a Mexican nephew, and I ain't kidding you. My husband's, stand up family, my husband's Jewish, divorced. And an American Indian nephew. My grandchildren, who are also Puerto Rican, and my Mexican nephew, great nephew, have attended the art school for several years. My nephew is also a child that has some emotional issues and family issues going on right now, and Mr. Byrd has stepped in several times, has offered his personal cell phone number, has mentored several people that we know, plus being there for my great nephew, Valentino. And I really appreciate that, Mr. Byrd. And you've been a friend of our family. You've helped us with our block parties we've had and different things we've done in the community. Is there racism in the community? Yes, yes there is. And yes, I'm white and I have no idea what it feels like of what you go through. But I do know what my daughter and my nieces have gone through. Okay, and coming from Miami, we never experienced it until we got here. I was a minority down there. But until something is put in place, starting at pre-K, starting young, being pushed by the city, by the school board, to teach people the tolerance. We can speak our mind, but not to judge based on what color our skin is. Please, please. Thank you. I love you, Mr. Byrd.
I love you too.
Thank you.
I'm Ronnie Tewksbury. I live at 75 Alvin Drive, Carrollton. I've lived in Carrollton for 35 and a half years. And of those 35 and a half years, I've known Gerald Byrd for 31 years. A year ago this month, I retired from the library after working there for 34 and a half years. And the first person I went to visit was Gerald, because I knew, just as I had been prone to and was determined to serve people of all races, all nationalities, all abilities, and all ages. At the library, I wanted to align myself with somebody that would do the same. Since last September, he and I have worked side by side to serve people of all ages, all abilities, all races, and several nationalities, all without bias, all treated equally by not only me, but Mr. Byrd. When he was in his late 20s, he stepped up to fill the void that people that lived in West Carrollton asked him to do when former City Councilwoman Ann Shepard passed away. He was young. He was my age when I started at the library. And he stepped in. He dug his heels in. He knew what was needed in West Carrollton. But you know what? He ended up helping West Carrollton. But he not only helped West Carrollton, he has helped better all of the city of Carrollton. And I've known people from different parts of Carroll County that have reached out to him for help, and he has helped them the best that he can. People that call for his resignation, the whole idea is ludicrous. To lose this man on the city council is going to be a loss to all of Carroll County, all of West Georgia. And whether he's on the city council or not, he will continue to serve Carrollton. I know he will. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Davis. I live at 715 Harrison Road, Carrollton. This is my son, Rain. He lives at the same address. I don't think I can speak to Gerald's character. I don't know him that well, but I can speak to what I've observed. And I've observed a man who, when he sees my son in the parking lot at Kroger, runs up to him and tells me how great my son is, tells my son how great he is. I see him do that not just in the parking lot at Kroger, but anytime we run into him anywhere around town. And I'm really appreciative of that. And it was actually Rain who made the decision for us to come tonight and voice our support for Mr. Byrd. The other thing I would like to say is there were people earlier who were calling for what sounded like a larger conversation and community action. I don't know how to make that happen, but I would love to be part of it. So I think I'm going to stand outside the building after this is over, and anybody who wants to be part of something like that, maybe we can figure out a time to meet up and figure something out. I don't claim any expertise, but I'd rather fail trying than sitting on my hands.
Hello, my name is Camila Echols, and I reside at 220 Willie North Street on the west side. West side. Born and raised in the same house. Mr. Byrd has done so much for my street on the end. Catherine Lavender Hardy is my first cousin. And Mr. Byrd, we need you. You have did so much because, number one, I keep some kids, and they white. What I really learned, you're not born racism, you're taught it. Because the little boy wants to be brown like me. He always tell me he wants to be brown. And the little girl says she have an afro. You ought to see her now. She says she has an afro. But that is taught. You're not born racism, because people have said how all the kids run up to you and hugging you, because they're not taught racism. They're not taught to go up, not to touch that black person, because at the end of the day, all our blood is red. We all red, we all multicolored. I was talking to somebody about racism, I just gonna start saying I'm other. I'm other. I'm not black, because we are all shades of colors. We are all shades. Purple, brown, caramel, I'm just other. Amen.
Hello, my name is Dean Walton. I live at 106 Candy Circle. I haven't lived in Carrollton for very long, and I don't really know Mr. Gerald Byrd. I know him mostly by reputation. I wasn't even really going to speak. I just wanted to hear what other people had to say. But something happened as I was on my way in here earlier. There was two other men outside, one standing at the door, one walking ahead of me. And the one standing at the door looked at the man walking ahead of me and recognized him and said, "Hey, I know you. You're not allowed in here. You're a tax-paying citizen of Carrollton. You're not allowed to come in here. There's no taxpayers allowed in this meeting." And they laughed and they shook hands and they both went inside and they looked at me and, we all shared a laugh. We came inside. I got the distinct feeling they probably wouldn't have said that if I'd been a little darker. The problem's real. It's here. Like, it's right here in this room. And just so we all know, who here's a taxpayer?
Me. We said what?
Well, that's a lot of people that aren't supposed to be in here, I guess. That's all I have.
Wow. My Lord. Wow. Wow.
Hi, I'm here to support Gerald Byrd. I'm Marian Reese. I live at 210 Martin Luther King Jr. Street. I stand to support Gerald Byrd. I think I'm the only one that can still call him Pookie.
Man. Oh, man.
Anyway, he have did so much for Carrollton, and I get teary-eyed because in 2017, I lost my grandbaby. And Gerald was the first one that called me and said, do you need any help? And I said, no, I don't need no help, but whatever you want to do, you can do it, Gerald. And if it wasn't for Gerald, there would be no butterfly garden for my grandbaby. He's not racist because I see him with too many white kids, too many black kids, too many Hispanic kids. Racist is taught, just like the lady just said. I got 7 grandkids. I tell them we all bleed the same blood. There's not no races in heaven. It don't matter what color you are. But so, Gerald Byrd, I support you. I stand behind you. And I just want y'all to know we don't need to lose Gerald Byrd. So y'all please listen to the people. And I just thank God that I was able to stand up here. I'm nervous because I have never did this before. But I wanted to come because I support Gerald Byrd. And thank y'all.
How y'all doing? My name is Jemaine Button. I lived in Carrollton my whole life. And when I was in the 6th grade, I met Mr. Byrd. And growing up in a small town, it's kind of easy to steer the wrong way. And I looked up to a lot of guys who were going that wrong way until I met Mr. Byrd. He kind of changed that outlook for me. He showed me there was something different, that I could be better than what I came from. And we don't have a lot of guys around here like that. So I just want y'all to not judge him off a statement, but everything that he's done for us and for our community. I'm not exactly from West Side, I'm from East Side, but I know everything that Mr. Byrd has done, and he's touched a lot of us. And I don't feel like everything should be taken away from him from one statement that he made. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Byrd, for regardless of how this plays out, what you did and what you do for our community will never be forgotten. And I want you to keep going hard, and I'm going to keep going hard for you. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ramona Smith. I live at 1369 Fernwood Court, Villarica, Georgia. I came in with the intent. Ramona Smith. So I didn't come here with the intention of coming up here and speaking, but I felt like I needed to have my voice heard as well. I respect Gerald Byrd. My family and I moved here in 1999, and Mr. Byrd has been an influence to so many people in this community. My children have gone to Carrollton City School. My 23-year-old went to the 3 o'clock Groove, and that's where I first met Mr. Byrd. And I will tell you, he is so involved in the community, and even though we don't live in Carrollton, anything that he is leading an effort, my husband, my family, we all make an effort to be involved in. The community garden. I thought that was such a wonderful idea. So on my day off, and I work most of the time, on my day off, I donated plants. I went out and worked in the garden. It was such a positive environment. And if you looked at the people who worked at that community garden, there were people of all races, okay? It wasn't just the people that resided in that area, okay? And then also, he's done things like sponsor things for back to school. My husband and I, we donate to anything and any effort that he puts on because we know that he is making a difference in the community. I believe by the saying, each one reach one. We all need to work together, okay? And so I'm standing here today saying that I support Mr. Byrd. I have not experienced anything racist. I do not tolerate racism. And I do believe also that we all need to be vocal. We all need to understand that if you don't talk about a problem, it's not going to get better. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Alexis Phillips, and I've known Mr. Byrd since my kids were like going to Mount Zion, and then they be moved to Carrollton. He has meant so much to us because my son Fabian and my daughter Christian, I know Fabian is was a little troublemaker in school and everything, but when Fabian started talking, and Mr. Byrd, I brought him to Carrollton because I work at Carrollton High School. When Fabian started going to 3 o'clock groove, I saw a difference in him, and it was because of Mr. Byrd. He was getting him involved in things, and also with my daughter when she was there. Before there was ever a bridge program at Carrollton, anywhere in Carrollton City School System, before they had any after-school program, there was the Groove. And this was back in 2000, even before then. He had a program for these children to go to. And I just want to say, if he was racist, he wouldn't have done this for the kids, because there were all kids of all ethnicity coming to this program. Not just the white, black, Hispanics, it was for everybody. And if he was a racist, he would not have done that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Miss Sue, just come on up. You can be last.
Hi, my name is Alexis Flores, and I live at 111 Sim Street. I have lived here almost 20 years now, and the very first administrator to ever make contact with me was Mr. Byrd, and I started in the junior high school, and it changed my life. I have always looked up to Mr. Byrd. He is an exceptional example of what I want my son to be like, and he is the boy that my aunt was talking about earlier who needed somebody, and I was in a place where I needed Mr. Byrd, and Mr. Byrd came in, and he just done a phenomenal job with my son. My son has changed completely, done a complete 180 in his behavior, and it's all because of Mr. Byrd. And I cannot thank him enough for how much you've impacted my family. All of my family is mixed up, so I represent everybody. We are all mixed. We don't care about any race or anything. We just want you to come to family dinner. So with that being said, Mr. Byrd, you're always welcome to family dinner tomorrow night. Thank
bread
you.
pudding was great.
Thank you. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christy Green, and I'm from Bowden, Georgia. I support Mr. Byrd all the way. I went to church with Mr. Byrd at First Baptist in Bowden, and I've known him all my life, and I remember my grandma telling me a story that his grandmother, maternal grandmama, my grandmama was biracial, and his grandmother, when she moved to Bowden, how she was so nice and wonderful to her because she was biracial. And she said even white and black people wasn't so nice to her at sometimes, but his grandmother was always nice. And she talked about that even when she got sick. And even when my mama, she passed away when I was 10 of colon cancer, and Gerald and his sister and mama would come and get us, and we're all family. We're not blood, but we're family. And I love Mr. Gerald Byrd, his family, and I support him 100%, and I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a point of information. This is a parliamentary question that I can ask the chair for him to make, just to answer information. I just want to clarify, I do not believe that the city council, the mayor, has the authority to remove another city council
I
member.
wanted to say that too.
Am I wrong, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, you're exactly right. The only people that can remove a council member or anybody here would be the governor or the ward that he's from. Nobody up here on the council that I know of has made any suggestions of that. Gerald, do you want to?
Well, I don't think they're speaking to, I think a couple people who have have spoken to the council, or speaking directly to the council, but we do need to clarify that no one up here is asking me to resign. Still say what you're saying, because I think what you're saying holds a lot of weight, and you're speaking to a part of the masses that need to hear this, and this conversation needs to happen. So it may not particularly be the people up here, so I was thinking that I need to clarify that at some point. It's not the people up here. But I think what you're saying is, and it's not necessarily about me, I think people are hurting. Take me out of the equation, and it seems like everybody in this room is hurting. And I think talking about it the way we're doing right now is healthy. Some people might not like that you're having to sit through it, but we need to do this. We need to purge ourselves of this. And at the same time, we're asking for a place at the table and to be treated fairly. So without any further ado, Alice.
Hi. My name is Alice Stout. I stay at 166 Nigeria Lane, used to be Chancery Lane. I'm coming to speak on behalf of Mr. Byrd because he's been there for me and my family when my grandson got killed in Nigeria. Also you too, Jim Waters. So I was coming here on behalf of Mr. Byrd to let y'all know that he don't see color. Nigeria was mixed. He was not just black, he was a mixed little child. And up to this day, Mr. Byrd always call and check on me and see how I was doing. He and Jim Water have changed Chancery Lane to Niger Lane. He have made Niger a playground named Niger World. And he has also given Niger a day of Niger Day. Every year we have a Niger Day. And because of Mr. Byrd, we have a Niger Day every year. And this year will be the 4th annual Niger Day. And I just want to say that I've known Mr. Byrd for over 24 years. I'm not from Carrollton, but I'm a resident. I'm from the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix. And I just want you all to know, and also Jim Waters, thanks for always being there. And Mr. Byrd, thanks for always being there for me and my family. And Byrd is the word. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Tramika Wilson. I'm from Carrollton, originally from Carrollton. And I've been best friends with Gerald Byrd since the 2nd grade. And if anybody knows Gerald Byrd, I know him. And this man is not racist. And that's all I got to say. And we're still best friends from since the 2nd to now. And I love you, Gerald.
I love you too.
Anybody else? Because Miss Medeiros is waiting to come. Mr. Lawrence, you.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that anybody that wants to speak has an opportunity, and you better run that 3 minutes. But I have to say this in public, and I haven't rehearsed it, and you know how I am about people I love. And I think there's only one person in this town that I do not love, and I cannot remember. I can't remember who it is. But anyway, I have known Gerald since he was 10 years old. So now, next to his mama and his sister, and all you rest of you folks, I'm number 3. So, I mean, number 1, 2, 3. So whatever you all think about it, I know my position. And now that, that is a fact. I know a lot of you in here, and if you notice, one of my mantra has always been to look at how the other person, how's that other person thinking about this? What does that other person, how can we incorporate, how can we work together? And I've been on committees and in groups, and people all want to run it. They want to do it all. But I like inclusion, get everybody included. And you folks that I taught. You folks, I got 3 minutes now, 3 minutes, and you will know, somebody tonight just told me of an incident that she remembers so well, and that's what public school teaching is, or a private school teacher, any school teaching is all about, is to see how the other person, how does this affect you? And it's understanding each other. I'm not going to point to this young lady, but she gave me an example of something that we did, and she's not forgotten it, and it's been a day or two ago. But back to Gerald. Now, Gerald, sometimes I have to set him straight. You know how it is. But we still give understanding, and that's the word I want everybody to think about, is understanding where the other person's coming from. Put your self in another person's shoes and go that way for a day. Somebody said that. But Gerald tries so hard to be, and what I consider, he's one of the best-hearted people I have ever come across, ever. If he had 2 shirts, he would give you both of them. But he shot. Well, I'm not going to get into that. He does more for people, and it's all people. And that's when I started teaching school. My daddy, and I hate to say this about my daddy, God rest his soul. He asked me. He said, "There's one thing I want you to promise me, and that is you won't teach black kids." Now that hurts. And my own daddy, he was a wonderful person. So the thing of it is, with racism, we've got to look at each other as children of God, all created in the image of God. And these little kids, if we're going to be school teachers, we better be able, like Miss Jet talked, and I know all of her stories. We had all those kids. Bye. Thank you. I'm going to. I am going. Listen to me, Walton. I'm going to walk my dog and let it at your yard.
That'd be fine. I think you already do. I think that's going to conclude citizens' comments. So, if anybody wants to hang around for the rest of the meeting, that's fine. If you'd like to try to find your way home, that's fine too at this moment.
Just to clarify, the meeting is not over.
We're not over with the
regular
meeting,
session
but,
now. So if you'd like to stay, I think it would be
But
nice.
I'd like to take like a 10-minute recess just to let everybody get up and stretch their legs just a little bit, if you don't mind. If y'all will find your seats, we'll see if we can't proceed with this meeting. At this time, we've gotten through the citizens' comments. Thank y'all for participating tonight. Item number 5 is the minutes from the July 9th, 2018 and July 26th, 2018 meetings. I assume you gentlemen have had a chance to review them. Any revisions or questions, or can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any more conversation? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Thanks, gentlemen. Item number 5, mayor and council comments. Anybody like to go? Got 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I would like to thank certainly my constituents and concerned citizens for being here tonight to speak in my favor. I'm beyond full and emotional right now, and I said to admit my notes have never been so wet. Also, I feel that if we work together, Carroll County and the city of Carrollton can exemplify what it is to be American, and we can make the American dream come true right here in this little town for every town and every state to see in this country. I would like to ask everyone also, too, to pray for my former student who passed away, Philip Bielheimer, the priest, and his mother, Priscilla Bielheimer. We ask that you pray for them. I'm proud to report that the restrooms are going up over in Robert Hendricks. The grill is going in at Legends West. We're certainly proud of that. I would like to thank the city staff, too, for the plans for the streetscape on Alabama Street. Thank you to everyone who helps with the community garden and who waters the community garden every day, including Sarah Benson, Jeanette Byrd, and Yvonne Zachary. Thank you all for that. Not here today is Brenda Brown. Thank you for your hard work over at the garden, which has fed thousands of people now. It's incredible. Also, thank you to the city as well for working with me on the interior of the West Carrollton Center. That's going to be great. And thank you to the staff for being very responsive to all the calls that I make to you guys, and emails and text messages to help us do the business of the city. So thank you.
I would like to thank Peter Mahofer and the Carrollton Parks and Recreation. They put on, and I don't know if everybody in this room knows this, but embarrassingly, I just kind of learned of it. But it's called Camp Island Breeze, and it's a 5-day camp, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, for special needs children. And they do that for the Carrollton, for all the special needs children in the city of Carrollton. They do such thing as take them to the Sky Zone over in Noonan. They take them to the swimming pool. They play games, play cornhole, volleyball, and they do it for 5 days. And thanks so much for that, Peter. Also, there's another camp called the Boomer Adventure Camp, and thank you for that. That's for senior citizens, and they get to go on trips. And this year they went down to Pensacola, Florida on a bus, and then they went on a deep sea fishing trip. So thank you for doing that for our senior citizens, Peter. It means a lot. And I just want to brag on Erica Studdard again. I hope everybody, when y'all get your water bill, we put in a little newsletter, and I hope y'all read it. And Erica, thank you for doing this. It brings attention to all the things that are going on in Carrollton. And this newsletter gives the citizens and residents of Carrollton an update. For example, it'll announce stuff like when the parade's going to be. We have the Sounds of Liberty concert for 4th of July, the Taste of Carrollton September 20, the Arts Festival. So thank you for doing that. And everybody's been bragging on Gerald Byrd, so I'm going to brag on him. This newsletter was Gerald Byrd's idea. So it was something that he proposed as his resolution. I got on City Council in 2015. And so I don't know. I mean, the ordinance, I believe, or resolution was just once a year. But maybe we can do it more if we have the money to do it. But anyway, thank y'all for doing it. It looks really good, and I hope everybody saw it. So.
And he went along with it. So, thank you.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming out to talk. I remember about 8 or 10 years ago, my first time coming to speak at a council meeting, and how nervous I was standing up there trying to talk and communicate what I thought was a good idea about, I think it was a sidewalk put in on a road somewhere. And I did that a few times before, being on this side of the table. But I just want to say thank you to everybody to come here, being involved and engaged. You guys commented, and you're here, and you stuck around too. The folks that are staying here to see what business is being conducted in our city is extremely important. You guys are talking about engaging in a conversation, and I think that is exactly what we need to continue to do. Being able to be an inclusive and engaged community requires everybody to be involved and engaged within that community. So I want to say thank you to all of you that have come to talk to us and talk about things that are needed to be talked about. So thank you to everybody that's come here to do that. Thank you.
I'd like to echo on the couple of things, piggyback on what Matt said about the mail out. I've had a lot of comments from citizens calling in saying that was a nice trick. And I didn't know exactly who was responsible, though, Matt. I'm glad to know it was Erica. It wasn't Erica. April? Okay.
I'm withdrawing my credit from you.
I'd like to talk about the flooding that we've had the last month, and the help from the fire department getting people off 27. Mike Green, Tommy Holland, going out checking on people's situations, going above and beyond. I know I made a bunch of personal calls to them. They responded well and didn't question. I reached out to Tim on a few things, and things just seemed to work and handle. It was just nice to know that our emergency response crowd was there and ready to go. We had an unusual rain situation on Dixie Street, 27, North Park. It was just one of those hover floods, and y'all all pitched in and got it done, and I just want to say thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several things. We spoke at our last called meeting about the need to set the millage rate. If we were to roll back, and staff does not recommend that, we would lose $86,000. So we would like to keep the millage rate as it stands. That requires 3 public meetings. Again, that is not an increase. That is just to keep it as it stands at 4.60. Those meetings then are planned for August 27th at 11:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then your already scheduled September 10th meeting at 6 p.m. And again, that is an $86,000 issue with the city. So we do not plan to roll back the taxes or to roll back the millage rate. Just to clarify that this is something that's considered because the digest increases because property values go up and new properties are built in the city each year. So that is why you would consider to roll that back, so that you wouldn't have to do those 3 meetings. But we think those 3 meetings are worth capturing $86,000. And again, it is not an increase to your tax rate. I want to be clear on that. We need a work session, and I'm going to ask Ms. Libby Duke to contact you on a time. We need to talk about the salary study. We need to talk about certain provisions in the UDO that I want to make you aware that they're there, and that as we enforce those, you're going to probably receive some pushback. And then there have been some talks about other capital projects and the priorities on capital projects. So I'm going to ask you for a work session for those to discuss those 3 issues. The new fire station is complete, and the open house is Thursday, August 30th from 4 to 7. And I also want to thank everybody that was involved in the flooding issues. I had a gentleman who came to see me, and he had a rain gauge. He lived off Almond Road, and he said he recorded 6 inches of rain in 2 hours. So that is a phenomenal amount of rain. And so if you had areas in your yard that flooded that you never saw flood before, it's because it was, beyond the normal design basis. So anyway, I want to thank, again, Mike Green and Jimmy Bearden and Joel Richards and Tommy Holland and all those folks that were involved in that, not just the whole staff all over the Parks and Rec, and a lot of hard work. And, these department heads and these departments are just excellent. I don't say thank you enough.
Just down number 8, item 8, approval of agenda items for consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the agenda item for consideration to include the proposal of the Creative Solar proposal of the 53 kilowatt project that's in front of you.
So item 3, you want to do what with Roy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just add it in there with the 126 kilowatt proposal. It's not in addition to, it's just 2 proposals just to consider.
You want to, talking about the 52 or the one?
I would like to amend the agenda items to include both of those.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, I guess point of information again, Mr. Mayor. I'm confused. What are we adding to the agenda? We have item.
Scope, cost, and study. Item number 3, solar energy proposal for Carrollton Center of the Arts.
Are we adding another?
No, it's not in addition to. It's just this. It's a different proposal for the same sort of project. One's a large one.
Are you trying to basically substitute it?
We can consider both on that agenda item. That's all.
Anything else? So we're going to expand item number 3. Tim, is there anything you want to add back in here? Okay.
We're going to need a second to approve the agenda as amended.
I had a note that somebody else wanted to add something, but I'm waiting. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to stall.
Yes, at this time, I would like to make a motion. Tell me if I'm not following.
I just want to make sure we go in order, and let's just do it one at a time. Rory has made a motion to amend the agenda to include, as part of item 8.3, an alternative proposal. And so that motion is on the table, so we just need a second if there's going to be one.
I second that motion.
Okay. And then any discussion and a vote?
Any discussion? All in favor? Please raise your hand. All opposed?
All right, so in that regard, the agenda stands as it's currently written, circulated. Now, Gerald, the floor is yours for your motion.
Thank you very much, Chuck. At this time, I make a motion to add to the agenda the item of the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, just for an update for the citizens.
I have a motion and a second. We're going to add that at number 7, if it
Yes,
passes.
sir. Yes, please.
Any discussion on Gerald's motion for the NSP update? National Yeah. Stabilization project? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? All right, sir. Agenda is set. We're ready to go. Erica, looks like you're up first. Ms. Studdard.
Sue ran the battery down.
I think we're back in business. The first item on your agenda is a rezoning request and a special use permit request located at 230 West Avenue. The request is to rezone the property from R20, which is single-family residential, to RM, which is multifamily residential. The Planning Commission reviewed this request last month, and they recommended unanimous approval of the request. A couple of items about this particular rezoning. This project does not include any development. It's an existing 7-unit apartment complex, and the current owners would like to condominiumize and individually sell off these units, and they would like to reinvest in the units prior to selling them. They would like to come into compliance. Currently, it's zoned R20, so it's considered existing non-conforming. The project itself does not include any new construction, however, though. All of it is going to be renovation. I'm available if you have any questions, and I believe the applicant's counsel is also available if you have any questions.
Just a question. So are they going to become condominiums? I was reading about property owners association. Are these going to be condos?
They're either going to be condos or townhouses. Both would be permitted in RM. They're going to be individually sold.
Is there provisions in there to require property management or property owners association, or no?
There's not provisions in the conditions. There's some long-term maintenance provisions for multifamily in general. I'm not sure, Chuck, does that also apply?
I would have to look and see.
Okay.
What does our long-term maintenance agreement for multifamily currently look like for enforcement? How is that being enforced currently, and how does that work?
It's typically complaint-driven right now through codes enforcement.
I got any more questions?
You said it's complaint-driven, Erica?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So are we working toward maybe the development of a plan such as the one that Rory just asked about, or are we going to keep it at being complaint-driven? Because it seems like complaint-driven, I guess, is effective.
Well, we do have a provision in our student housing development standards where we actually work with the university and partner with the university on that, and that helps some, I think, with regulation. We haven't transitioned that over to traditional multifamily as of yet. Okay. Like I said, I do believe that the complaint-driven process seems to be somewhat effective right now. We could always make improvements, I'm sure.
And that's just a citizen saying this is a derelict property or dilapidated, or is that what complaint-driven?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe this project's been there for quite a few years, about 30-plus years, isn't it?
Correct. And also, with the special use permit, they would not be permitted to put any density. Not only is no density, there's no density proposed, they wouldn't be able to put any more density on the site without coming back before this council.
And so just so everybody will know, the existing complex will be demolished?
It will not. It will just be renovated.
Okay, good. I really like those apartments, and I like the way they look. They got kind of a New Orleans flair to them. And I've always found them to be attractive.
Right near downtown.
Mm-hmm. No, pictures don't do them, John.
Do we have any other small condo developments in Carrollton that either have or don't have property owners associations?
I'm not aware. Let me. Are these going to be townhomes or are these going to be condos?
Townhomes.
Okay. So I wouldn't expect that you would have a condominium development without a condominium owners association, because you have to have some mechanism to deal with the common areas. with townhomes, these are going to be fee ownership. I mean, they're zero lot line lots. So the unit owners will actually own the dirt in addition to the unit. So, and again, I may be speaking out of turn without looking at the ordinance itself, but I would be surprised if in our ordinance we would require a property owners association for townhomes. And I don't know for something that's only going to be 7 units, whether that's really needed or not. Do you know
There
if
will
they're
be some
planning on
common
one?
space.
I thought their paperwork said there's some sort of association. Yes, there absolutely will be a property association, particularly, like you said, because of common area.
So that 2-story unit right there, is that an entire unit, or do you go down a hall and then there's people on either side, like a kind of a hotel kind of
Can you come to the front? Yes, sir. I just officially asked somebody wants to speak for or against, so go ahead and beat me to it.
I'm Zach Thompson from Tysinger Vance. We represent Fairleigh West LLC in this application. I know there's a lot of important things going on tonight, so appreciate your attention to our application. There will, in our plan, and like as detailed in the letter of request, be a property owners association, particularly to there's an additional 10,000 square foot tract that is behind what is currently the property that Fairleigh West has also acquired that makes up this 1 acre total unit. That additional common space will be additional green space and common area with amenities according to the POA's wishes or direction once it's formed. There will not be any changes to the structure. From what I understand, the structure is, the buildings are structurally sound and there are no changes to the footprint or the building structure at all. This is purely, as detailed in our letter of request, things like replacing the garage doors, repairing the roofs where needed, repairing portions of the siding where needed, repaving the parking lot, that type of thing, all of which in aggregate we cannot do because right now it just exists in violation as a prior existing use. And we did choose to apply for rezoning to, rather than applying for RM10, we applied just for RM for the 6 units per acre with a special use permit, just for a 1 unit per acre density increase specifically to ensure the city and to give us the ability to ensure potential buyers that there cannot be any unit increase or additional units built on the property beyond the 7 that are currently there. Mr. Charles Hodges, one of the owners of Fairleigh West, is here with me today. Either of us are happy to answer any further questions or explain further anything about the application. We would appreciate your approval.
So we own that property that's next to it, correct?
There is one, I think, directly to the west. Yes, sir.
And then to the right of you, okay, that's Stephen. Okay, gotcha. I didn't know that was Stephen Hills, huh?
Mr. Hodges, you would, Dr. Hodges, I'm sorry. Yeah, come forward if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Charles Hodges representing Fairleigh West LLC.
Y'all got any questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for looking to redevelop some properties in Carrollton. It looks like like the mayor said, a pretty cut and dry sort of thing you guys are doing. You're coming in and renovating the property and selling it off. Just come in, the rezoning is just to make sure it is actually allowed within the city. So it's a pretty simple sort of thing. My only concern was just moving forward, making sure that there was an association and that you guys did address that question. So thank you.
Dr. Hodges, I just want to say thank you for a thorough application. It's one of the best applications I've seen. Okay. Well, thank you to Mr. Thompson for a excellent application.
Okay. Anybody here to speak against this rezoning? Assume here y'all have asked all your questions, so I have a motion we approve.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Have a second. All in favor of the rezoning request, to rezone, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Resolution 13-218 Alcohol Brunch Bill Referendum. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have before you a resolution that is written to allow the citizens to vote to see in the November election to see if they would like to move Sunday alcohol sales from 12:30 p.m. on Sundays back to 11 a.m. This is allowed by a law that was recently signed by the governor, very recently signed. If you want this to be on the November ballot, this meeting tonight is the only time that you can approve this for the citizens to vote without a special call meeting. So that's why you're seeing this on the agenda. Thank you. If you have further questions, I'm sure Chuck can address them.
Anyone any questions, please? I don't see anybody standing up. Any discussion? Anybody? I'd like to say that nobody's contacted me from the restaurant industry to even voice an opinion about this. Although it's, I guess it's the fairest thing to do is to put it on the ballot. I'm really Sunday's Sunday, so it's you can't wait till 12 or 12:30. Is that current? What we got is 12:30. So after the preachers get through singing in the choir. Anybody got anything they want to say? See anyone want to make an approval or a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve Resolution 13-2018.
See anybody want to make a second? Hearing none, dies on the vine. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 3, scope and cost study. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had several council members ask me to include several things on the agenda, one of which was a scope and cost study for solar energy for the Carrollton Center for the Arts. And included in your package is a proposal from Creative Solar. And I believe that the scope is 126 kilowatts and the cost in this particular proposal is $207,900. And for further detail, I would defer to others that are here tonight.
I'd like to jump in here. This Solarize Carrollton, Carroll County is a group effort with the city residents and county residents and business owners and institutions within our community. It is, once you get a group of people doing the installing and purchasing solar in this area, it brings the cost of the panels and the install cost down for everybody that does buy into the program. The Solarize Carrollton, Carroll County, what they did was they evaluated different solar installers based on price, based on warranty, based on quality, and things like that. So they went through an RFQ process to look at the qualifications of each of those installers. And this is something that's been done in various communities around the country. Jekyll Island, Athens, Georgia, Atlanta, Dunwoody are currently going through the same thing. And what it does is allow cities, institutions, residents to invest in solar energy to reduce their operating costs or their monthly power bill. What I saw when communicating with the solar group was an opportunity to reduce our ongoing operating costs. We do not know, we know currently what our power bill is, but in 10 years, we have no clue how much that will increase. We can guess, but what a project like this does is allow us to reduce those costs by investing in infrastructure to allow us to produce solar energy on one of our buildings. We do have John from Creative Solar here can communicate the different aspects of the financial analysis of this one proposal. The amendment to the agenda that I proposed at the beginning was a smaller proposal that did die, but having said that, what we would need to do to have the possibility of putting solar on one of our buildings is go through a bid process to make sure that we're getting the best price, not just taking the process of an RFQ that we went through before, that some community leaders went through. We had folks from Southwire, folks from UWG, Carroll EMC, and other private business owners and residents on that committee reviewing those qualifications of each of the different areas. And what we would need to do then is put forth a bid with requesting bids for an install of a similar nature. And that's what I'm asking to do, is put forth that bid process. So in our next council meeting, we would be able to look to award that bid.
So tonight, Councilman, we're not voting on anything as it stands now?
No.
Good. And I'm co-sponsoring this with you, so thank you, as you know.
I just need to make a point. There would not be time enough to advertise by the next meeting, so it would be the following meeting for a public works project. So I just want to let you know, it'd take a little time to put a bid document together. So there would not be time to advertise, to get a document together, get it out, advertise, and award that by the next council meeting.
Okay.
But it would be the following month if you chose to do that. Thank you.
So I'm going to admit I'm just a little bit confused. We're looking for a motion to adopt a proposal, or Chuck, can you help me out here just a minute?
Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily need a motion, but I think city staff needs some direction from the council as to what you guys want city staff to do. Do we want to create bid documents and submit this thing for bids? It could certainly be in the form of a motion. It could be also just in the form of consensus that this is something you want staff to do.
We have two co-sponsors for it on the council.
I would prefer a motion. There's a lot of work to putting this together.
Okay.
And that's what we're here for, is to do what you guys ask us to do, and I want to do that, but I would prefer a motion. Our direction would be clearer. Thank you.
I would have preferred it come up in a work session so we could have talked about it. It's kind of got stuck in my face of the week, and I really don't know enough about it to be objective. I'm sorry. I'm aware of the Creative Solar project, and I have a lot of questions. Why the Cultural Arts Center? How big is this panel footprint? How much is our roof space that we've already got a little bit of leakage problem going on over there? I've got a lot of questions that are just unanswered at this time. So.
Well, we have some folks from Creative Solar that would be willing to respond to those questions if you'd be willing to ask those today.
I still think it's a work session item. I don't think it's tonight's session. I'd like to see it just tabled. But somebody won't make a motion that we approve.
Is there anybody here that thinks one way or the other?
Point of order. We've passed public comment, Mayor, and I don't know on these issues that the public gets to speak unless you want to invite them to speak, but this is not public comment.
No.
It's in a zoning issue where they have a statutory right to make a public comment. This is a legislative process.
I agree with that.
I've got just a point of clarification. If you're asking for a motion to vote on something, historically, we've made it open for people speaking for or against for any item that we've voted on. And I would encourage Mayor and Council to look to that, because what we've been talking about is being engaged, being involved, and listening to the people in our community. So if we're looking to make a motion to vote on something, I would encourage us to listen to our constituents and what their wishes are.
I second that.
I would like a motion to be made so I know what
Zach?
whatever the citizens talking about. I want to know what they're talking about. So I'd like a motion to be made so when the citizen speaks, if in fact the chair decides to let the public speak, I know what context the public is speaking in. They're either for or against the motion. The motion has to be made.
Tim, you asked for a motion to put forth bid documents? Okay. I'd like to make a motion for city staff to put together bid documents to receive from solar companies in our area for a solar array on our Culture Arts Center.
I have a motion. Anybody want to make a second on the motion?
Second.
Gerald, do you want to make a second?
Yes, sir.
So I have a motion and a second. So we have a second, gentlemen. What do we want to do? Do we want to?
I would love to hear from people in our community at this moment. Our constituents.
We will allow, if anybody wants to come forward, Chair will allow.
I'm a little bit confused about the process here. It was a little bit contentious here, it seems like, in terms of what the right process is. But I was made aware that there was going to be a discussion and maybe a vote on solar.
We need your name and address, please.
Oh, okay. My name is Hannes Gerhardt. I live in 121 North Lake Drive here in Carrollton. So I was told that there might be a vote on solar and potentially a vote on the part of the city to take part in the Solarize Carrollton campaign. And I think that that's probably not going to happen now, since the motion was tabled, and we can't get the additional amendment that Rory put up was tabled, since I think that was going to be a proposal for an array that was less than $100,000 that wouldn't have had to be bidded on. And so I guess I was thinking that there may be a vote today on joining the Solarize Carroll campaign. But if that's not going to happen, I would like to at least offer my support of the council to seriously consider investing in solar for the city of Carrollton. I personally have decided to put solar panels on my own roof. For me, I'm a faculty member at the University of West Georgia. I'm in the geosciences department. As a scientist, all evidence is pointing very clearly to really the planet being in a tailspin environmentally. And for me, it's just the right thing to do. But there's lots of reasons for investing in solar. The University of West Georgia has invested in solar as part of the Solarize campaign. They're doing it because in the long term it will save them money. But of course, the rate of return is probably not as great as they usually would like to see it. Maybe 5 or 6 years is oftentimes what businesses are looking at. It'll be a little bit longer with solar, but there are other reasons for the university to want to do this. Students want to see solar. 50% of students coming into universities, there's a Princeton review study, are saying that it's important to them to see this kind of environmental commitment. And it's a great learning opportunity for them. For the city, I think that there's a lot of reasons to do it as well. It's the right thing to do, that's my personal opinion, but I think it's also a wise investment. You know, if you're a homeowner and you're being told that your return on investment is going to be 10 years, maybe 12 years, you're thinking, well, maybe that's not good enough. I don't know if I'm going to stay in my house that long. If you're a small business owner, you might think the same thing. 10 years is a long time. A lot of things can go wrong. It's a pretty big investment. But the city of Carrollton, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here in 10 years. We're going to be here in 15 years. And the warranty on solar panels is 25 years. Right? So 10 years, and after that, the electricity is free. It just seems like the right thing to do in terms of financial responsibility in the long term. And lastly, and then I'll be quiet, is you know, we bring a lot of candidates in to hire at the university, and we're always showing off the city. We're always trying to show the city in its best light, and it really helps what's been happening in the city. I've been really happy. I've been living here for 12 years, and this is a cool place, and I really like to show it off, and there's a lot of things going for it, but I think something like solar would just really add to that. It would show that we're forward-thinking, that we're thinking in the future, we're innovative, and we're part of the 21st century. And so I think just in terms of getting investment, getting employees to come, making Carrollton an interesting place for outsiders, just that is in and of itself a good reason to get solar. So thank you for listening.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Sue Medeiros, 115 Old Mill Court. I've had experience with this in a home that I have owned, and also I'm in traveling, looking at different areas of the country. It's just a matter of time before we have solar energy. So as a homeowner and that sort of person, I would, in a minute, buy a solar energy outfitted home over one that was not. So that's my take on that.
I'm John Hinman. I live at 398 Buffalo Creek Road, Carrollton. Co-owner of a building up on the square, a multi-use building. You might be familiar with the one that has the Highland Deli, offices, 3 levels, apartments, and restaurant. And very proud to have developed that building, pleased with the way the square is developing. I'll just keep it really simple. I'd like the mayor and the city council to consider taking the first step. And I think that's what we're talking about tonight. Let's take the first step. It's a step toward looking at another source of electricity, of managing our electrical cost. Is simply a first step to go deeper and explore something that has finally become very cost effective and can save the taxpayers money. This would be a conservative step toward maintaining and managing and in some cases reducing cost when we know the electrical costs are going up. They're already quite a bit of the budget. So again, I just simply ask you to consider tonight taking the first step to look at this. Thank you.
I'm April Rogers, 499 Craven Road in Rooteville, Georgia. I am a county resident, not a city resident. I would live in the city if that was a possibility for me. As a huge recycler, this is being a good steward of the citizens' money. I know a little bit about that you guys don't get paid a whole lot of money, and I'm not going to get into raises and all that, but if you have a way to save money, save it, because there's another need that it can be used for. Just explore it, because once you explore it, you'll see the benefits of what it can do, because God's going to give the sunshine, so take it. Save the money for something else that can be widely used for something else to benefit everybody.
I'd just like to make one more comment. I shared on my Facebook page an article from the Times Georgian that spoke about this solarized project and this proposal. Mayor Hollingsworth, you requested people to provide some input on that post, and we had about 20 people comment in support. And between my personal page and my public council page, I had over 100 people engage positively with that. I had 0 engage negatively. We had multiple people sharing that. So in terms of looking for support and looking for how the community and our constituents feel about that, I believe you posed the question and received a response. So I encourage mayor and council to, all this is just looking at bids. This is not to put anything on a roof today. Well, all we're doing is to look at it further, make sure that this proposal that we've received is in line with what other companies can do, and we'd be able to vote on it. So the motion on the table is just to garner more bids, which is just more details for us to be able to analyze, to make an informed decision, to invest, to lower operating costs.
Rory, yes, I made a comment on your Facebook page, and yes, I read the comments. I'm not saying that I am opposed to solar. I am saying that we have just completed our budget, and we are trying to squeeze every nickel that we can from to make budget at this time. I'm concerned that $200,000 that we need to come up with out of this year's budget would be just astronomically hard on the city staff.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I spoke with Jim Triplett about our closeout of last year's budget, and it looks like forecasting we're coming in at right around 1% below budget, which actually amounts to $270,000. So when analyzing our budget, I think it is extremely important to make sure we have the money, to make sure that our city staff and our department heads are being frugal. We don't want to just spend it because it's there. What we want to do is we want to spend it on projects that impact our city, that do the things that our constituents want. We are hearing what people are saying, and what we want to do is ensure that we are hedging our finances on cost-effective things. Yes, it feels good. Solar, it's important that we need to be doing it for environmental reasons, but solely from a financial standpoint, this makes sense. So if regardless of which side you're on, if you're on the environmental side or the financial and economic side, it hits check marks on both. So asking about the budget, I'm glad you did. And I did my research and talked to our finance director. And while it's not final yet, the forecasts show that we are under budget based on lapsed salaries from last year, which shores up enough money to be able to do a project of this nature.
Rory, I guess if it passes, these questions be addressed, but the questions would be, how long do each solar panel last? What's the life on that? Number two, the question I'd want is, I want the solar panel explained to me. Do they rotate with the sun? How much sun do they capture? What's that? Okay. Yeah, it's on. You've already admitted when you made your motion or your comments prior to your motion, we can't predict what our energy costs are going to be in the future. They possibly could go down in 30 years, possibly. I also don't know, but well, and he's saying the warranties is good for 28 years. I guess that's for the Creative Solutions panels, but I don't know about these other panels. I don't. And has there been any commercial buildings, the square footage that has these panels on them that you're aware of?
Where?
Anywhere in that any city in Carrollton is there another commercial building the size of the building that's being proposed that has solar panels on it?
John?
My name is John Harding. I live at 1316 Marietta Country Club Drive in Kennesaw, Georgia. I am the COO of Creative Solar USA, and if there are any questions that I might be able to answer directly for the council and the mayor, I would certainly be happy to do that.
But you're a Kennesaw company, correct?
We are in Kennesaw. Yeah. We are the selected contractor for the solarized Carrollton and Carroll County. We are installing systems in Carrollton and Carroll County. We have achieved Tier 2 in the solarized campaign, which basically is 100 kilowatts, which is driving the cost per watt, which in our industry, that's how you price a solution such as this. It is how many kilowatts are going on the roof, divide that by 1,000, that's how many watts you're going to wind up with. That's where your price is derived. Mm-hmm. The panels which we propose, the panels which any vendor that is going to come to you with even the smallest amount of ethics is going to propose are what's referred to as a Tier 1 panel. Tier 1 panel basically is exposed to rigorous testing. It is also the company which is evaluated to achieve Tier 1 such that that company, so for example, we use LG, we use SolarWorld, we use Helene. These are all very reliable, quality Tier 1 panels. They have a 25-year warranty. That warranty is actually towards the performance of the solar panel, which means that whatever the production is when that panel comes out of the box, in 25 years it will still be producing 85% of the original rating that was achieved when all of the testing was undertaken, when you spot check solar panels just as you do any other element that you would purchase, televisions, cars. That's where they come up with their warranty. So the 25 years is not workmanship, it is performance, which means that whatever you're going to be producing on the roof when you install it on the Art Center, 25 years from now, it will still be producing 85% of what it was originally doing on the first day that it went up.
And how long are the panel? Have you had panels that have a 30-year history or a 25 history or a 20-year history that backs up the data that you said?
As a company, I have a 10-year history of installations.
You have 30-year history or 25?
No one vendor is going to have a 30-year history except the United States government.
So you're basically asking us to take a
risk?
A risk.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you to look at the performance of solar from the perspective of what does the United States government say about it? What does the National Renewable Energy Lab say about it, which is the source of any of the information which we use? It is not derived nor developed based upon our experience. It is based upon the experience of a Department of Energy function, which is the National Renewable Energy Lab. They come up with the reliability.
I just respectfully ask, if it passes tonight, I don't know if it's going to pass or not, but if it does, I imagine you'll submit a bid.
We have.
Okay. Well, I'm asking with your bid, I've read your bid, that you also give me some other referrals that we can call. I'd like to talk to some other cities or universities that you've done installations of this size and magnitude to find out what savings they're experiencing. No city. So we'd be the first city?
You would be absolutely the pioneer city in West Georgia, indeed in the state of Georgia. The only entity The only government entity that I know of that's investing in the state of Georgia is the federal government. And they are doing that at military installations.
Well, what about your competitors? Have they installed these solar panels on these buildings of the magnitude?
Not for cities. You're just, generally speaking, a municipality is not forward-thinking enough nor willing to undertake the challenge to achieve the vision that you can look at for a 30-year return to the customer, which is in this case the citizens of the city. They are going to continue to see the reduction in consumption for that particular structure.
Rory, you know I am a proponent of solar energy, and I do support the, I guess, the avant-garde nature of what you're talking about. And I'm sure you've done this, and I'm sure it's in our notes, but remind us, and I'm sure you've conducted a very thorough and forensic analysis of the cost effectiveness of these. When will they pay for them? Like, how long of a run will they go before they pay for themselves? Because I think that's interesting to share.
It's actually up on the screen right now. The return on investment is a 9.3 year buyback. So for the first 10 years, roughly, you're going to see the reductions in your power bill are going to be paying off what it costs to install. After that point, for the next 15 plus years, to add up to your 25-year warranty, which is still an 85% workability. There's still more. Ideally, it continues to work further from that point, but from at a minimum, 25 years. So what you'll see is savings, as you can maybe kind of see on the screens, of $828,000 over the course of the life of the panels that would be installed.
Now that is based upon an average of 2.5% increase in utility, which is pretty much held true since 1960. And again, those are numbers that are provided by the federal government in terms of what is the average increase in electrical cost. They've got numbers that go back to 1960. You sit right at 2%.
Help us understand, too, the 85% that you spoke of. You said that it would cover 85% of the power in the building. So the 15% would be Georgia Power or Carrollton. Is that how that goes?
If I left you with that, I misstated.
Yes, sir.
The performance warranty on the panel dictates that it will still produce 85% of its original production when it comes out of the box. So for the sake of math, if coming out of the box it produces 100 kilowatts, in 25 years it's going to produce 85. That's the relationship that you have in terms of the warranty. The performance warranty is what you're looking at. Generally speaking, if a solar panel comes out of the box and it works on day one, it's going to continue to work for 25 years unless it is subject to physical damage, such as hail or somebody dropping something on the glass. If you break the glass, then you run the risk of having shorts occur within the solar panel. But we have panels that are installed across the southeast that have been exposed to hail, that have been exposed to physical damage from limbs. The Arts Center is an absolutely clear roof. There is no shade that falls on the areas that would be proposed, and any vendor that comes in is going to put them in the same place. It's going to be about 126 kilowatts, which is going to fit in that area, possibly more if you move on to the eastern side of the Arts Center. That's what you're going to be looking at. That space that is available that is not going to be shaded. That's the area that's being proposed.
What kind of load are we going to be putting on top of our roof?
It averages 6 pounds per square foot when you're using a ballasted installation. The advantage that you gain with a ballasted installation, it is a non-penetrating mount. So there's no holes that go into the roof. It sits on the roof. The weight of the array itself will actually hold it in place. The ballast is intended to prevent any wind uplift, so you don't have panels that are getting picked up and blown off the roof down onto the sidewalks. Usually on a building such as that, you probably have got 11 to 15 pounds per square foot of spare capacity, and so we would be putting 6 pounds. On a residential installation for your citizens, it's about 3.5, because they attach to the roof. A ballasted installation such as this would be about 6.
So I wanted to ask you, too, is this photograph, is it true to form, or is it a computer rendering?
Can you go back to the first one, please?
Does that show us what it's going to look like?
It is a rendering of the solar installation and the the footprint essentially on the roof of that art center.
So those are the proposed panels that we see.
Indeed,
on the
that is 126 kilowatts. The other, if you choose to go with a smaller array, it would simply eliminate a portion on the upper roof of the auditorium, remove about a third of those on the lower roof of the auditorium.
And you'd be able to see these from the parking deck.
You would see them from the parking deck. You would basically see the tops of the arrays because they are tilted to ensure that they get good production. As you come down Alabama Street from the square towards the Art Center, you would see them on the lower roof, and you would see the tops of them on the upper roof.
And I
I'm
guess
just glad that we're looking at this. I can't believe we haven't already done it.
A lot of cities have a problem with the CapEx because what they're saying is this is a big chunk of budget.
It says, I read your terms and conditions of your contract.
Yes, sir.
Paragraph 8 says, upon completion, care, custody, and control of the system. I imagine the system is your solar panels and the whole installation.
Everything.
Will, and all risk of physical loss or damage shall pass and transfer to the purchaser, i.e. the city.
Indeed so. That is physical damage. If it's something that you have to do with cleaning it or if there is a failure in the installation, that's where we provide remedy. In most cases, for example, any liability or property insurance that the city would carry would be covering those as an attachment to the building.
I see that in paragraph 14, any damage to the components determined to be produced. I see that in the paragraph 14, it says any damage to the components determined to be produced by acts of God would be submitted under the property owner's insurance coverage for funds to enable Creative Solar to provide resolution and repair.
Correct.
So this is, you're proposing in your bid, you're going to be our partner for 30 years?
We will be your partner as far as our installation is concerned. Any damage to those panels, which is act of God, force majeure, that's going to be something that, generally speaking, you are going to be pursuing your insurance coverage on that. If there is a problem with the panels or the inverters, which are the equipment necessary to convert the DC voltage on the roof to the AC voltage that you're going to consume in the building, if there is any workmanship failures on the parts of any of those components, they are going to be covered by the original manufacturer.
Under their warranty.
They are indeed under warranty. And just to make one other point, because we had an experience with a company called Suniva that was a manufacturer of solar panels that declared bankruptcy. All of their warranties have to be bonded. So in the event that the company folds, there are monies that are available to ensure that their panels are replaced without any additional cost to the consumer. But again, this is not hearsay. There is statistical evidence that we can provide and present. Any of the other vendors is going to bring you the same information with regards to the reliability of solar. You know, everyone talks about it as being leading edge and new. The first calculation as to the amount of energy that the sun produced was actually done in 1839. It's not something that is brand new. As the point that was made earlier, it is energy that is coming out. It's 1 square yard receives instantaneously 1 kilowatt of energy when the sun is out. If you're not taking advantage of it, it's essentially wasting it. Everything on this planet is driven by solar. Wind is driven by weather, which is driven by solar. Nuclear is basically coming from radioactive isotopes that came out of a sun. Coal, gas, they all came out of solar. You are not on the bleeding edge of technology when it comes to pursuing solar.
Just a comment, maybe a question. I don't, at least, well, I can only speak for myself. There's no doubt with me that solar is a viable form of energy generation. I work in the wiring cable industry, and we sell wire, just like some other folks in this town, into this market. So it is definitely viable. My only question, or my main question is, and Rory has addressed one of it, is the payback, but also why, and I thank you, Matt, for asking the question, why aren't more municipalities or governments taking advantage of this? I mean, why? I mean, I guess I'm asking you to speculate on that. I know there are tax incentives for
commercial, for commercial and for residential customers. There is indeed a federal tax credit,
right? Which we are not either one of those.
You're not a.
So
yeah,
we don't
you
get
have no
the
tax basis. Yeah.
We don't. Right. So so we don't get the incentives that commercial and residential customers would get. And that may be part of the reason why other municipalities haven't embraced this. But I'd like to hear what your speculation is on that.
Let me work from the top down. The federal government, the reason the federal government pursues it is the same reason that a city or any other municipality should pursue it. And that is the longevity of the performance of that particular production system. If you vote tonight to procure a new fleet of school buses, and you'll spend $170,000 or $200,000 on a fleet of school buses, which may last you 10 years. At that point in time, you're going to have to replace them. A solar array that you make the investment in tonight or whenever it is that you choose to pursue that, the difficulty that I have with a municipality saying, so what's my payback on it, is because there's no rational way you can approach it. It's a capital investment that you make in infrastructure. Just as if you built a new building, you put solar on the roof of that structure, and you are providing, as a minimum, 30 years of energy production, which that structure will then be able to experience. And it just does not go away. It diminishes slightly over time, which is where the 85% warranty comes from. Cities, I think, have an issue with the capital investment that they have to make out of a tight budget. It's the same thing you have with a business. They will look at CapEx versus OpEx. I am providing you with a means to achieve a substantial reduction in the operating expense of that building by virtue of putting solar up on the roof. It will achieve an ROI solely based upon the power generation value. And that's the only entity that you really have is, am I buying a kilowatt hour from Georgia Power, or am I taking a kilowatt hour that comes off the roof and offsetting whatever I would be using from Georgia Power? That is the sole incentive that you have, and that gets you to that 10 years, is I have not consumed energy from Georgia Power equivalent to the investment value that I had in the solar array, and then from that point forward, every kilowatt hour that it produces is free to you, free to the citizens when they use it.
Well, I just wonder why other municipalities haven't done. Why aren't we the first one? I don't understand.
Well,
this is
you're basically what's being made available to you is, as a solarized Carroll participant, you gain access to the lowest possible price that could be achieved in the program. That drives down the cost per watt to the degree that your investment is really, it's probably going to be more like a 9 to 8.5 year ROI on that. Cities have an issue when dealing with a capital expenditure. That's all it resolves to.
I just want to say something in comparison. Carrollton has a green belt, and what we're seeing is every city trying to build their own green belt. We're not the first person to do things. There's been other multi-use trails around the state, around the country. But what we're seeing, though, is a lot of people viewing Carrollton as a leader in terms of doing things slightly differently. This is using, it is investing in a capital project that will help reduce our operating budget. Mm-hmm. It is doing something that we will see around the state, around the country, other cities, other individuals and companies doing. I don't think that it's not a risk to do. It's because what we're doing is we're seeing how it's been done before in other areas. It's just we're a different institution that is happening to do it in this sort of fashion.
If I can, one off observation, excuse me. And John's probably not going to like me saying this. The city of Atlanta, quite remarkably, Kasim Reed on his way out, said that he wanted 100% renewable and sustainability within the city of Atlanta. And that was the edict that he basically passed on to his successor. We're starting to see now, for example, the city of Atlanta is pursuing solar on youth centers, fire stations, any public buildings that they can think of where you've got a fairly reliable daytime consumption, or even an averaging offset consumption, which is what they're trying to get you to. So if the building consumes X over the course of a year, you install sufficient solar that you can achieve some percentage, whether that be a 50% offset or a 60% offset, whatever makes sense to you and whatever makes sense to the citizens, that if I can get this energy paid for by virtue of using solar. And again, this is where I think I have a difficulty with the whole ROI argument, because you don't really have an ROI other than the power generation value. You're making a capital investment which is performing, if you view it that way, as a capital asset that performs from day one. The minute that it starts producing power, it's going to begin to provide you with an immediate offset in terms of your consumption on that structure. That's what the goal of solar on civic and city buildings is intended to do, is just drive down the consumption so that monies are not being spent on energy cost, which are unpredictable, with a very predictable, on average basis, solar production. We know what you're going to see on the roof of that building for a year. We know what you're going to see year on year on the roof of that building. If the sun doesn't come up tomorrow, whether or not you're getting offset is probably the smallest issue that you've got to worry about. But that's what we deal with. I appreciate your time. Are there any other questions you might have for me?
Erica, can I ask you a couple questions? Cultural Arts Building. kind of activity do we have during daylight hours? And what kind of activities do we have after dark?
It varies, actually. In the summertime, we have quite a bit of activity during the daylight hours because we provide summer camps. I'm not sure if you guys saw our program, but and I don't know the exact number, but we provide camps all summer long. During the school year, we do provide activity during daylight hours, but we do go well into the evening many times. So much of the time, I guess, is well into the evening. So it just depends on the season and what programs we have going on.
3 or 4 months out of the year, we're pretty heavy during the day, and
Absolutely, with the summer camps.
then
for
say
sure.
8 months out of the year, we're probably heavier at night.
That would be an assumption I would make based off of our programs, but I'm not real sure. I'd want to look at that before I would.
I mean, I
say
understand.
it.
I'm just kind of
Okay.
generic.
Okay.
I'm thinking I'm already in that thinking mode. I'm just trying to make sure I'm thinking in the right direction. I know that we got a lot going on in the summer months during daylight. And then as the daylight savings times hit, everything goes back to nighttime consumption, which we will not be getting from solar, right?
That's a good idea.
I mean, the batteries aren't made up yet to store.
We can actually pursue that if you would like to look at energy storage to provide you with the ability to load shift or load shade. The proposals which have been made, for example, the larger array is a 30% offset array, which means that 30% of the total consumption that you experience on that building is being offset through the use of solar. Our experience with structures such as that is that's primarily your base load through the day. That's going to be your HVAC that's running. That's going to be keeping the lights on in offices. That's going to be keeping computers running in those areas. It's not until you get up to the 85% offset where you start to say, I'm going to be dealing with everything that's going on. The first question that I asked the director there at the Art Center was, how much activity do you have during the day? Because the reflex that I made was, I got an auditorium, I got plays, I got music. It's going to be primarily evening load. And they said, no. We have a lot of activities. We have a lot of camps. They have 2 kilns that run in that building. If they fire those kilns up, you're going to be consuming a lot of power. If they run them during the day and they leave them running overnight, solar would be able to provide you with offset on the majority of that consumption during the day. We're not proposing a system that tries to get everything. The larger system is about 30 to 40%. The smaller one is about 15%. So it's primarily offsetting the base loads which you experience in that building on a regular day in, day out basis.
What's your last name again?
John Harding.
John, I'm sorry, John, John Harding.
John Harding.
Oh, Mitt and Mitt might be a believer now, Mitt. I'm probably wrong in saying that, but he may be slowly converting over here. What if you made us in terms of solar energy.
Yes.
But what if you made us the flagship and maybe offered us this free?
Free?
I'm just, and I don't mean to put you on the spot or put Rory on it because I'm a proponent. So I'm just saying, make us the flagship. We show it off to other cities. Rory will be the ambassador.
I'd be more than happy.
Put his jacket on, walk over there. And
if you would provide me, I would engage in what's called a SEPA, a Solar Energy Purchase Agreement, where if we find a backer, it goes free on the building, and you agree to purchase the energy from that backer, first consumer of the energy that comes off the roof. And SEPAs are they're legal in the state of Georgia as of 2015. The question is, you would be engaging in a contract, and you tell me if the city council can engage in a contract for 20 years to procure energy from a third party on the roof. Therein lies my rub. So
I think we need to go back to the table on the flagship free thing.
Yes, sir.
Here's another question. I know you're over in Kennesaw, and I know Cobb County's not that far away from us.
It's an hour.
Yeah. So you're going to
I drove here at 4.
Yeah,
so.
you're going to laugh at my statement, but Carroll County gets a tremendous amount of rain. I mean, we just do.
Yeah, you do.
And I don't know if we get as much as Kennesaw or Cobb County, but I just feel like we get everything from Alabama comes here.
Yep, that's
tornadoes, we get it
and
all.
west.
It's just, yes. So with solar, and you have overcast,
Yep.
and we'll go weeks and weeks of rain, especially in the wintertime. And in the wintertime, I feel like from maybe November through February, I don't remember seeing the sun that much. So what's going on when you have all this overcast and the rain? Are you still capturing the sun?
Performance of a solar panel is optimum in direct sunlight. In overcast days, there is a reduction in its performance. Without becoming harping on about it, the National Renewable Energy Lab, the numbers that we use to calculate the annual performance on an array sited on that building is based upon the Department of Energy's assessment of 3 elements: the latitude of the proposed site, the microclimate of the proposed site, and the historical weather of the proposed site for the last 100 years. That provides us with a number of about 4.5, conservatively, 4.5 hours per day of insolation, annual average. So all the numbers that we produce are based upon 4.5 hours of sunlight per day on average. That's straight number. That takes into consideration the long days in the summer where you're seeing 13 hours of daylight, short days in the winter where you're seeing 9 hours. Your latitude, your microclimate, which is substantially better than it is in the city of Atlanta because you've got a lot of particulate matter which exists in the city of Atlanta. You get a lot of heat islanding because of the concrete. You get a lot of inversions that set up over the city. Your air quality is sufficiently improved that you're probably going to see about 5 hours. But we are always going to tell you 4.5. And it's the averaging. That's why with solar, you're not going to be looking at what's it doing tomorrow. You're not going to be looking at what's it doing next week, what's it doing next month. You're going to be basically living in a 12-month cycle because that's what solar lives. It lives in a 12-month cycle. I will guarantee you that every year you're going to pretty much hit the same spot on orbit where you're going to get the same day length. So that's what we rely upon is the regularity and predictability of day length, the regular reliability and predictability, even factoring in changes that are currently occurring in terms of weather to be able to provide you with the numbers that you see on that proposal. And again, any other vendor is going to use the same numbers. This is not something that we produce. These are all third-party numbers.
So I'm a little bit confused about where we are in terms of making the motion. Yeah.
All right, let me, just so there was a question about where we were from someone who spoke earlier. There was earlier a motion to amend the agenda to include discussion of an alternative proposal.
A smaller proposal.
Well,
understood.
All right. That motion did not pass, and so I just want to make sure everybody understands that right now nothing has been tabled for further discussion. The agenda was simply not amended to include a discussion of the alternative proposal. What is pending right now, as I understand it, is a motion to direct staff to prepare bid documents where presumably you guys could come back and vote on. Tim thinks that it would be the October meeting at the earliest before we'd be in a position to have you vote on it. But the motion that's before you right now is a motion to direct staff to prepare bid documents for the solarization of the Center for the Arts, as I understand it. And I believe that motion has been made, it's been seconded, and what we have is now still a discussion about it.
Okay.
So we're going to close discussion on it, Gerald?
Rory, you good with that?
So we're going to call the question. All in favor of directing city staff to check the proposal cost of the solar energy project, please raise your hand. All opposed? I would like to see it come back in a work session so we can get more information. I'm sorry, I mean, I like it, but it just kind of got thrown in my lap, and I'm just not going. We've been talking about it and all summer long with Solarized Carroll, but this just kind of came up kind of quick. If you want to come back for a work session, I'm all in, but I'm just that's all I got to say. I'm sorry. All right, sir, I'm going to hold you to that. Item number 4, scope and cost study, E-compliant and resolve tracking. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, we have a button on our website called Report a Problem, and we have some other icons on the website for reporting different kind of issues, specifically billing-related issues. The Report a Problem button sends an email to either me and Mike Green, those two people. We probably get, I would say, 4 a week. The way they're resolved, and y'all know Mike Green is he gets the problem and he goes and fixes it. So there was a request by a couple of councilmen that we look at something more modern, I would call it, and more e-friendly. And if I understand the scope, it's that we would go out and look for software and developing a program where a work order would be generated and that citizen would get automatic feedback on that work order. And if I understood the request, it was that we come back with a scope and cost in 90 days.
Is that similar to 711? I know one time we had explored 711. It's probably been 10 years ago.
Oh, again, the way we get most of our problems is people call in.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people call you and you're very good about responding, and hopefully you're pleased with our response.
Oh, yeah.
This would just kind of be a more modern version, something that's more, I would say, e-friendly, more computerized, and, it gave us 90 days to look at the scope and come back with a presentation and an estimated cost.
And a lot of my complaints, too, come from the elderly and people who aren't tech savvy. And some of them just are more comfortable telling a human being versus a computer.
Yeah, when I brought this up a few months ago, it was not to replace any sort of contact with any staff or council or mayor. We encourage everybody to do that. This was just in addition to it. Right now, if somebody calls me and says, hey, I've got a pothole on my road, I'll shoot Tim an email or give him a call, and it usually gets resolved right away. But what this just does is allow people to hold staff accountable. Ideally, we always have great people like we do currently, but just making sure that the requests that our citizens have are getting resolved and they're being notified. Because what I do is shoot Tim another text or maybe a week later saying, hey, did that thing get resolved? This would just notify me saying, here, it's done, it's been fixed. Like you said, something a bit more modern.
Rory, you know what I like about this is it will give us data to show where services are being rendered most or less, and it kind of reflects some of the comments that my constituents made in feeling neglected. We'll be able to look and say, specifically, it'll produce data to show us that may or may not be true, and it may cause the staff or whomever to pay better attention to, not that they don't, but to everybody. So
I'd like to ask a question, Gerald. Is this going to be open? Anybody that wants to just go on and check on this can just look at what complaints are being filed?
I know, I'm an artist. I know nothing about technology. You're asking the wrong. I can draw.
I think largely it's just a project management software. Just saying, here's a request that comes in, it's getting tracked, is it going to get it resolved? And once it does, it just notifies the person that put it in. It's not I do believe that I think it was before I started that there was a motion or a resolution to be more open and transparent. I believe Councilman Lane put that forward. Ideally, yes, those reports are in our end of year sort of system, but I don't foresee, and I think it'll be based on reviewing what software is out there. I don't foresee it being something where somebody can say, "Where's the truck? I haven't seen him pull up yet." I think it's you put it in. Once it gets done, it gets put into saying that it has been resolved.
You may be able to click which department it goes to if you even know that, or it'll still go to Tim and Mike.
There's tons of software out there. I'm sure our staff can look at and evaluate what ones are.
And it's not to replace Crime Stoppers, 834 Stop, right? Okay. And we're not voting on this tonight. We're just.
You are voting to direct us to do this.
Okay, gotcha. Motion from me.
Got a motion, Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
A motion and a second. Don't it have a second? Second. I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of item number 4, scope and cost study, e-complaint, resolve tracking to direct staff to check on availability, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Any opposed? Item number 5, mayor and council compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At one of the work sessions, we had a discussion about how poorly our elected officials are paid, considering all the time that they put in. I want to be clear that if you choose to go forward with giving elected officials a raise, the law is very clear, state of Georgia law, is that you cannot receive that raise. It is after the next election, whoever that sitting body is can receive that raise. So I just want you to know, these gentlemen cannot vote themselves a raise. It applies to the next elected body. Now, some of these may be elected again, and therefore they may benefit, but the law is very good. And I'm going to defer to Chuck Conley and let him explain the nitty-gritty of this and how this works and how many meetings have to be held and the notifications. Thank you.
In order to act on this, this will have to be advertised, and so the only action you could take tonight is to direct staff to advertise it for consideration at the September meeting, and then you can vote on it anytime between now and qualifying of next year. But once qualifying occurs, you can't vote between the day qualifying begins and the date of the election. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. But if you want to take action at the September meeting, we would need to advertise it in the newspaper prior to the September meeting. So that's essentially what you're being asked to do tonight, is just to vote to advertise it so it can come back in front of you in September.
And for the entertainment pleasure of the audience, just to remind them of what our salaries are, it's $3,500 per year, right? Or $3,600 or $3,600 a year for the council, which is $300 a month before taxes. Then for the mayor, it's $500 a month, and that's $6,000 a year, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
And it will be the increase that we're proposing. I forgot what that. I remember we talked about this when
I'll go ahead. I was going to make a motion to increase to double the city council from 300 to 600, and then to increase so that would be, my math is wrong. How much is that?
$7,200 a year.
That's $7,200 a month, and then increase the mayor to $12,000.
$7,200 a year. Yes, sir.
$7,200 a year is what I was going to propose, Gerald.
Yes, sir.
And then increase the mayor to $12,000 a year, and then we were going to make a follow-up motion to table that, not run the publication, and give the residents all the month of August to contact us if they're up in arms over that. So even though the city manager is proposing that we go ahead and could possibly start publication, I say we don't. And intentionally because we have transparency, let's put it off 30 days and come back in September and actually vote if we want to run in the newspaper. But let's give the residents
tonight.
That's what I'd like to do.
I second that.
Oh, well, I haven't moved my motion yet.
Was a motion.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
But I will. I'm going to make my first motion.
Okay.
To increase the city council to $7,200 a year, and then the mayor to $12,000. No, sorry, 12. How about you make the motion? I'm tired.
We all are.
14.4.
It's 144. Write it down. 43, 14.
Yeah, where we got the $600 a month for the council and $1,200 per month for the mayor, that's the average salary for mayor and councils within the state of Georgia for cities of our size. Do you remember, Chuck, the publication that put that out?
I might get attacked.
It's in your package, by the way, if anybody wants to see it.
It's on the board.
It's the Department of Community Affairs.
Yeah, it's on the board. So if you average those numbers up in the highlighted area and divide by the total, it comes out right around, again, $600 a month for council and $1,200 a month for mayor. So and it's been 18 or 19 years, I believe, since the mayor and council have voted to increase pay. It's in 1999. So our feeling is, and again, we're not benefiting from it. It's the next, after the next election, whoever gets reelected, those will be the ones that benefit. So we just think it's time to look at this, and you guys can yell at us. We can take it. And to Met's, I believe the motion that Met's going to make is to table it for a month, and then we vote on it next month, which gives the public an extra month to yell and scream if that's what needs to happen.
Well, I move right now that we increase the mayor's salary to the, moving forward, henceforth, the mayor's salary to $12,000 and the council's salary to. I thought he made $500 a month, and we double that. That's 1,000 times 12 is 12,000, right? But we're not doubling the mayor. So 14,000. Okay, here we go. Because it's a 12 times 12 is 100.
I don't think we want
I
that
got
raise.
you. Okay, so here we go. Well, it's not for us anyway. We'll be dead. So I move we increase. We're speaking life, though. We'll be alive. I move we increase the mayor's salary to $14,400 annually, and the council's salary to $7,000 annually. 72. Let me start all over again, please. I move we increase the mayor's salary to $14,400 annually. I move we increase the council's salary to $7,200 annually.
I'm going to second that motion. And if I can speak to that motion, Mr. Mayor. All right, real quick. I think that's going to be about, if we make that increase, it'll be about a 1/11 of 1% of our $52 million budget. So it's not even 1%, it's 1/11. The other thing is the school board members of Carrollton City Schools, they make about $700 a month. So we're basically just equaling what school board members make. The other thing to keep in mind, which just blows my mind, is that our mayor spent $49,000 to run for mayor. His opponent spent $51,000. There is over $100,000 spent to run for mayor to make $500 a month. Just blows my mind. And anytime the mayor goes somewhere, he gets invited to all sorts of civic events that charge at the door. And the mayor has to pay out of his own pocket, which was very kind of him. But again, it blows me away. So it is a civic duty. So that's kind of why, if anybody wants to know why we came up with our numbers, we thought, hey, let's look and see what the city school board's making, and let's see what I believe the county commissioners, I spoke to one, and she told me that the county commissioners make about $600 a month, but I could be wrong with those numbers. So that's about where we are. And our other thinking is that we want good quality people to run for public office, for city council, for mayor. We're blessed in our small town that we have the hospital, Southwire, and the university, plus tons of other businesses. We have very qualified individuals in this town, and we're just maybe hoping to incentivize them. I don't know, maybe we need to increase it more, but that's kind of our public policy reason behind it is what we're doing. So.
Well, I know my gas doesn't even cover.
But with that, with a motion in a second, I'd like a motion to table this, Gerald Burr's motion, until September 10th, the next city council member. That'll be the Monday after Labor Day, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Grizzard?
Yes, it is.
So there's my motion to make to table it.
So we've got a motion on top of a motion, right? So you need a second?
Well, that's correct, isn't it, Chuck?
That's right. So now you've had a motion to table the motion that's been made, and that motion would require a second.
Motion and a second on a motion and a second. All in
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're voting on the motion.
To table the motion.
All in favor of tabling the motion made by Councilman Lane to postpone till September to take action on the original motion by Mr. Byrd.
Confusing.
Please raise your hand. Motion carries. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 6 is direction from the mayor and council to staff to do a speed limit study on Cedar Street and Rome Street. That requires involvement of Georgia DOT. There were laws passed a long time ago. For those of you as old as me, you may remember when the city of Ludowici gave Lester Maddox a speeding ticket. Faith is blinking because she's not as old as me and she doesn't remember that. But the laws are the city can't set its own speed limit and enforce it. It has to be approved by the state. So there's some councilmen here that would like for us to look at 2 streets with the hopes of reducing those speed limits. So if you direct us to do so, we will do that.
So we're not setting any speed limits. We're just going to look at it.
Yes, sir. We're going to go through the process to see if DOT will approve the reduction in those speed limits.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just a comment. Cedar and Rome Streets are, Rome Street in a part is 35 miles an hour and Cedar is also. That is the same speed limit as Bankhead Highway. Those streets are very different in structure. They're historic residential streets. And this is just to look at additional traffic calming measures. What we want to do is be able to enforce those speed limits, because like Tim said, there's no point in writing a ticket if we can't enforce it, and there's no point in putting things on the books that we can't enforce.